Hello? Hello? Ah, nice. Can you hear me? Nice. So, it's my first stream, so kinda checking everything. Hmm. Let me just change a quick setting. And I'll be right there. Okay. Probably that's fine. Okay. This. Nice, let's go. So, hello everyone. Glad to see you today, and I'll be presenting the last thing we worked on this API platform and PHP WebAssembly stuff. So, obviously, it first started at a conference while talking with people on how to improve open source software in general, like when we think about Symfony or API platform or any actual open source software has trouble maintaining the documentation, and it's always been kind of a struggle to have something that people can rely on and find the information they need. And that said, I'm thinking about this for quite a while now, and yeah, I thought a few years back, and I was like, what if like we had something where we could try and run API platform, like something that you could have on a USB key or something like this. So most of the software that exists today, like for example eval, which is really great, runs and a server, right? Where when you execute something, where can I execute this code? Hi, you can see that it just executes a bunch of requests. Oh, and probably, actually, why is this a WebAssembly stuff? Oh, probably it's not anymore. Nice. Actually, I don't really know how this works, but I made the assumption that it wasn't running any WebAssembly stuff. Then probably it is, probably, let's check, blah blah. Where can I find this information? Probably on GitHub. Backend. Yes, more memory. So probably that the scripts were being run on the server, right? And this is less portable, like if you need something to work offline, it's quite hard. Okay, I see. Interesting stuff. Okay. Performance reason. Yeah, anyway, so and few years after, actually, I stumbled upon Shinmori's PHP WASM stuff. So this, to my knowledge, so this guy is the first that experimented combining PHP in WebAssembly. To do so, what they use is emscripten. For those who don't know actually what is emscripten, it's compiler tools to build binaries that run in WebAssembly. And what they do is actually provide some kind of JavaScript layer to gain access to some kind of file system or any system call you would need. So here, for example, let's see, you see there is a bunch of APIs available. So most of them are in C, but the one here, for example, for file system API is done in JavaScript, and probably that the fetch API is as well, right? Because we need here to, if we want to run WebAssembly in the browser or on our system, we need some kind of bridge for this kind of stuff. And I know that they provide for the file system API, for example, a Node.js file system if you want to execute that on your server. And in the browser there is also a file system that is based on IndexedDB. And when I come to this knowledge, I was like, this is really cool. Actually, I could build some kind of playground for API platform where we could plug some code, execute it, and probably make everything work. So I went on and I built this PHP WebAssembly. So I forked a fork. So this guy is the first one that ran, I can show you this. He ran, oh, not on this version, sadly. He ran Drupal. So he, Orato, the first guy, didn't added any PHP extensions. And this guy added libxml and probably other bunch of stuff. So I forked this software, and please bear with me. So what you are going to see is not probably best practices when it comes to building stuff, because we have this huge make file and we should actually put everything in a Docker or stuff like this. So what I did is I took this work. I tend to remove the PHP patches they added because they were not really useful, and I fixed some kind of bad compilation. I mean, not really bad compilation, but what they did was kind of weird something, so I just cleaned everything up. Like, I better like this because I can read. Actually, reusing code is quite hard sometimes, so you need to put everything like you like. And then I statically built XML and a bunch of stuff needed for Symfony. And I added also the SQLite support, which is also built in. So actually, we have bindings for SQLite, and if we can look at the, you see that we are directly building SQLite with EMCC as well. So just building SQLite into a static library that we are going to be able to use later inside the PHP WebAssembly build. Let me see. And I can't find it anymore, but SQLite 3. Yeah, I think I'm just giving back this libraries directory after. So, and when I came to that, I actually made a first version that I'm going to show you right now, which is public but not really usable, or I'm not a huge fan of it. GitHub. So this is the one, and I came out with this fairly quickly. Actually, so you have a bunch of files here, and you can. My idea was to try to give some kind of guidance to the user and say here. You can see I added a second book. Actually, this provides persistence as well. Oops, sorry, I will get an error if I do this. So, and you can see that the code I changed was executed here. Okay, but to do this, I wasn't able to compile Symfony directly in the browser because I had issues with caching and stuff like this. Time passed. I had other matters to do, especially the release of API Platform 3, and actually this documentation work kind of initialized the work that we are going to do for the 3.0, because I was thinking, yeah, the API to declare resources is not good enough so that we can have something quite enjoyable for the end user. So we released the 3.0, and now it was time to go back on this documentation issue. And I heard about Diataxis. Diataxis is a framework that helps you organizing a technical documentation. And while reading this stuff, and I really encourage you to read the stuff, it's amazing. They kind of showed many different parts of a documentation, and today we are just going to be interested into this part, which are guides. And among this, so this was a recent conversation at the SymfonyCon with Wouter, and yeah, he showed me that, and he also talked about this thing. So Doco is probably there would be a better way to show you this stuff. What you can see here is a documentation that comes from the source code. Okay, it's CoffeeScript, right? But if we go to the source code, you will see that the source code is actually in literate coffee, so it's a readable document with code in it. And there are several ways of disposing this kind of documentation. One way I like even better is is this way. So let me probably just remove the sidebar for now. Bye bye. So if we have something like this, you see that what we try to do here is give the ability to the user to have the readable part of the code, and here on the left part and a guide through the code and what everything does. So for example, here we use an exception to status option, and you can see that you can find a link that brings you to the reference. So this is also something we are working on. I won't really get more into details about that, but if you come to Docsify, you will see that the reference is a big part of the documentation. It's really useful on API platform. If I give you an example of the configuration, this reference is really useful to everyone, right? And all the common points of what I show you here that we didn't write anything else than PHP. This configuration reference was just taking. I could actually show you some code because it's fun. Let me go here, here, and what we actually did, if I can find it, we took the Symfony configuration file and we just executed YAML reference dumper, which is a Symfony service. And for the guides, it's exactly the same thing. Like, we really wanted to so that the guides were PHP files, just like I showed you in the literate coffee thing. So this is the guide you just saw. This is the source code. So we have really just a basic API platform resource. And what's good about having software that's documented is that when someone contributes to something, he can add some kind of guide for the new feature or whatever. And first, we would have this inside our documentation directly like this. But also we could execute this code and actually make it testable in some kind of continuous integration pattern where our documentation could be tested. And this would be really nice because you know that your documentation works. And right now in the API platform there are many things that, I don't know, where are not up to date, or are giving some terms are not right, because it's really hard to maintain the documentation when you try to work on the code. It's really a hard problem. So that said, let's go back to this WebAssembly stuff, and we tried again to run the Symfony container, and this time we actually fixed the caching issue. There was no caching issue, probably a wrong configuration. I must say that the Symfony runtime was really helpful, I think. I will show you the code right now. Where is it? Inside the playground. And so yes, I want my PHP index, which is here. How everything is working, because we have this PHP build in JavaScript, right? So we have a simple JavaScript app actually, which is loading the code editor you see. And when we run this, all we do is use this function. So this is from EMCC, so emscripten, and gives you the ability to run PHP code. Here we run this method, so I did not invent any of this because it was let me see, and if I have this pib run, so this is from the guys are forked. When we check the C code, what it actually does is just run some kind of eval of the code you send, and calls a bunch of PHP stuff just to execute the code. There is also a PHP exec here, which is a bit simpler. Like it executes just the PHP code you give and gives you the return value. This does not handle the values. It's more a script stuff, you know. And what is fun is that we have this PAB refresh and destroy, because in JavaScript the script you execute does never end like in PHP. In PHP usually you execute the script and it stops, right? So here in that case sometimes we have to restart the PHP script, if I can say. That said, let's go back to here. So we execute a bunch of stuff, and let me go to what we do. So we have this function here. Oh, actually, this is not needed. We send him the guide we want to run and just require the PHP file. What we did so far, and it's for many reasons, we tried to have that each guide is actually just a single file. Even with complex stuff like this one that is decorating a service, etc., should be in one file because it helps us with creating the documentation, the links, etc. So here we have this app going on. So this code is simply from the Symfony runtime documentation. We just use that, and here we create our kernel, giving him the guide. And let's go check that kernel real quick. So micro kernel tray, base kernel, quite basic stuff. We have this configure container. We didn't want it to add YAML files and XML files. We have to picture here that everything we add to the code here is going to be also things you need to download to start the playground. So I will show you the weight later. And yeah, we add some services to make everything work, and we have this request function. So we just check for this app playground request, and if it exists, we execute it. And last thing we did, which is quite clever, is that we have this cage deer is according to the guide, so each guide actually has cage. Same goes for the database, because yes, remember we have SQLite, so we can actually use Doctrine. And let's see a guide now. So am I in the playground? Yes. Let's go on the browser. So this is where we are at today. So here you can see that I compile the latest PHP version. We are using API Platform 3, and this is a guide that shows you how to extend Open API Factory. Here you can notice that we have the as decorator here and a map decorated here. So we are using Symfony's attributes for dependency injection. And it works because here we are changing the title, and actually you can see on the right that that is the JSON answer tied to this request here. So if I use LD, I have to click save right now. It just executes what I give here. So this is the Hydra documentation, but let's go back here. And yeah, so to go further, sometimes you want to do complex stuff, so let's remove these two right now, and we also have the possibility to directly use the configure part, because we are building a kernel, so we can just give you the configurator, and you can actually do whatever you want, and this is working as well, right? There is no changes I can prove. Yes. So this was the first big step for me 2 weeks ago, where I was like, yes, this is nice. I can showcase a little bit further. So this is another test of ours where we have this provider, and so this is the example I showed you earlier. And because the provider handles a single book and a collection, we can also try to reach the first book here. Yes, and what about creating the exercise to add a second book here? So let's go. Yeah, like this, and I need to also go fetch the collection. And yeah, nice. So this doesn't use this doctrine, and this was so I'm not alone working on this. I have a few people's working at Letiel that are helping me as well, like Vincent, Hugo, who did a lot of work on this. And let me remove this for clarity. These are just experiments. As you see, it's an ongoing work. So we have this one, and you see that here. Oh, and probably it will just fail, right? I know why. So what actually happened right now is that we probably retried to create these tables. So I'm just going to shut that down. No, it doesn't want to. Oh yes, I know. Okay. Integrity constraints. Yeah, bunch of stuff. But anyway, when I'm refreshing, do know that there is a database behind it. So let's use doctrine. Yeah, I removed the persistence because it was quite annoying when you are testing. Here we loaded some migrations with doctrine. So it's like a really, how can I say this, real use case. Like you could have something working here that is exactly what you have in your code, right? We still have this issue to find out if we split these into files or not. It's hard. And yeah, we also added some fixtures here using Foundry, that you can check here. So do I want to speak about something else? Yeah, so the PHP WebAssembly build is working. I just built PHP 8.2, but I really need to go back to this makefile and change how it's done, and so that we can have Docker builds, and you can actually download the builds on GitHub or something, because yes, the weight, let's check. So about the weight, and it's quite also what's good with my makefiles is that on the right here I am watching for file changes and actually rebuilding all the files you need to make this work. You need Symfony, you need API platform, you need PHP code, you need a bunch of stuff. The directories must be created, or you need to create them in PHP, like var, cache. Vendor need to exist, so you need to composer install first, and all this needs to be brought inside the PHP JavaScript build. And this is what's done here. So it's quite ugly. They have a Python tool that you need to run, and if we can see here, probably inside, where am I? Oh, I'm not in the wrong project. Here you get at the end 3 files, like, or maybe just 3 files. PHP web data, which is the raw data, PHP web.js, which is the JavaScript layer that runs WebAssembly. And inside this JavaScript layer you can find the file system. So I think I have an example somewhere. I was using, like fs-isds. So this is actually a layer provided by emscripten that allows you to check for directories inside your file system, which resides in the IndexedDB. So let me show you storage. Here you can see that we have this stuff with a bunch of stuff inside it. And we can actually use also another file system to persist user files in case we want to. So we could provide some kind of really good PHP environment that's working quite nice. I'm not sure how it would go with network stuff, because and actually there is, if you're interested in that, a discussion on PHP internals about compiling PHP into WASI target. So this is more to run PHP on sandboxes that are only using WebAssembly, right? And you could access to the network and do low-level stuff that obviously you cannot do here. Don't ask about cryptography or whatever. I really don't know if it's safe here. Actually, why not? Right? It's probably safe. Anyway, so this helps you build PHP WebAssembly stuff, WebAssembly build, and I will provide a way to download them. And let's go check how much it weighs. So we need to find first this one. This is the raw PHP build with the extensions and with SQLite, right? And then no, this is not what we're looking at, but it's probably using some kind of worker, or I don't remember. And let me probably try to load the data as well. Nope. I will try to remove it here. Yes. Okay. Nah. Yeah, you see that this is a lot, and this is only PHP code, right? This is Symfony, the vendors, the API platform. API platform is not that huge. There are some JavaScript files I would not like to have in this build, but yeah, and I tried to filter already, like when I'm preloading here. You can see that we are trying to remove a bunch of stuff, but it's not enough apparently, because I think it's a lot, but in another hand, it loads quite okay on a house connection. Okay, but I would like to bring that down. Obviously it's caged, so once you have it, if something changes in our code, we need to send a new one. So, and yeah, that's it about everything we are working on right now, which concerns PHP WebAssembly. And last thing is, obviously we are working on a way to run tests inside here. So you can see that here there was an experiment on that, and we would like to make guides testable so that we can run them in a CI as well, so the documentation is tested and the playground is tested, because we know it works, right? I don't know, are there any questions? People, hi, it's Hugo, how do you think? We need to we need to do something like, okay, I'm inside here, something like this, and we need to find out what's need to be removed. For example, this stuff, I don't know, do we really want that in our PHP build? I'm not sure. I think that there's no good answer. either try to provide smaller builds or not. I don't know. For now, we try to keep that to the lowest dependency. We thought about Foundry and if we really want to include it, because we know it's Faker alone is quite heavy, right? So yeah, these are all trade-offs, and when we work on that, we need to be aware that this can be also quite heavy. Yeah, I hope you liked my intervention. Are there any other questions on the subject? I can go back here, and for the so we are working on adding test supports, and then we will see how we go from there. Do you have another question, Hugo, or not? Oh, not yet. Looks like a lot of stuff. What do you mean by in-house stuff to make it viable? I mean, actually right now it's quite easy to build the same setup I have here. Like really, all you need is to build PHP WebAssembly, then run the preload file, and actually I have a really simple example here. You see that just make on the repository, then you get this JavaScript file, and then you can execute code. If you want to load Symfony, you can reuse the runtime and just use the runtime here, but you will need to preload some data. So the preload data script, I think it's also available here. Yeah, they initially built it in everything, but I moved it to this. So this is the Python stuff to execute. You give him the directory and the GS output, and then this needs also to be loaded. So I choose to combine this. Wait a second. So I just take this PHP web data file and I'll put it here, because I had trouble working with the custom way of loading JavaScript. And there is Adrien Lucas also, someone, French guy from Sensiolab, who is also working on, and so I think he's trying to run the console. Yes, there will be a replay, I hope so. I don't know. I will try. Yeah, most of our custom stuff is because we have only one file. If you have many files, then it's way easier. You don't need any custom stuff. Actually, I don't know if Symfony wants something like this, but it's quite easy to do, and if you want, you can just ask us how we did if you want to do this yourself. So yeah, that's all for now. I think I will go eat something. I will try to save a recording of this and put it somewhere online so that it can be used as, I don't know, archive or something. Thanks everyone for being here and listening to this stuff. Hope it was interesting and that you learned something. And I see you in the next one. Bye.